Hello everyone and welcome to Call Sign Charlie Models. Andre here, and today we have another inbox review. And as you can see, because you get to look at my lovely face, we have a box that is so large it does not fit in frame on the workbench. So today we are doing the Trumpeter 1/32 scale F-35B Lightning, the Marine Corps version for this one. Now I am a little bit late. I know I missed the Marine Corps birthday, but happy birthday Marines as well. But we have a nice kit going on right here from Trumpeter, and going on by the side right here we have 4 different options with our decal options, and then we have our ordnance going on right there, and then we also have a photo etch sprue as well included in this kit. Now on the other side we also have some nice CAD renderings of this model. Right here it looks like we have the bomb bay, landing gear, our different options for how we're going to have the short takeoff, vertical takeoff engine right there, and then our cockpit as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the camera turned around and everything set up with the box and all the plastic, and then we can start going through the instructions and everything included in the kit. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Alright, so starting off with the instructions, this is item number 03232, and then we have the standard Trumpeter layout for our instructions, black and white booklet in landscape format. Also, one thing I forgot to mention with the when I was going through the box, if I don't drop my knife on my foot, we have a total length of this kit of 486.2 millimeters and a wingspan of 333.6 millimeters and a parts count of over 400 parts. Now in American units, that is about 19¼ inches in length, and then about 13¼ inches in wingspan as well. So gonna be a decent size model. It's not going to be huge and it's not going to be small, and definitely if you want to fold the wings on this as well, that's going to help save some space. This one does not have wing fold. That's only the C that has a wing fold. So this one will definitely be a good space saving type of model for a 1/32 one. It won't be too bad. Alright, so back to the instructions. Opening it up, we have our standard parts call out right here. As you can see, all the different parts and sprues. We do have rubber tires for this kit as well, and we also have the list of unused parts in this kit down at the bottom of the parts call out right here. Alright, so we're starting off with our cockpit, getting all of our cockpit done. Our instrument panel, which is going to be all glass, so you're going to have a decal in there. It looks like the decal is for the powered up version only. So definitely, I think with me, I'm going to go in there and just paint it gloss black and then put some UV clear resin on there to do the glass touch for that. Then after that, we're starting on our upper fuselage, adding in all the parts going on there along with our cockpit. We do have a couple holes to cut and remove going on through there, and then adding all of our intakes and everything going on for that. After that, we are starting with our bomb bay, getting our bomb bay pieces all together. Right there, it's going to be a nicely detailed bomb bay, and then we do have a couple holes to drill in for the bottom fuselage, and then we're getting our bomb bay attached to our fuselage right there. After that, we are getting our landing gear wells put in along the bottom, and then we do have our engine right through here, some engine fans and some engine detail parts going on there. And then we have our engine going on. Now we do have a few different options on how we want to display our engine. We have just the standard pointed, and then we have the short takeoff, and then we have the vertical takeoff and landing option right there. Then we have our landing gear well, our nose landing gear going in. Does look like we will have to attach that into the sidewall, so that is one downside to this so far. But again, looking pretty nice. And then we have the topside intake going on right there. Then after that is all done, we are getting all of our sub-assemblies for the bottom fuselage put into the model, and then we are going to take our 2 fuselage halves and put those together right there. After that, we have our control surfaces, our wings right here. We do have some holes to cut for that. And then we have our flaps and slats and actual control surfaces going on right there. Then after that we have our main landing gear going on. And then we have our bomb bay doors and landing gear doors going on right in the next few steps right there. And then we have some more detail parts to the bottom with the hatches right here, or panels right here, depending on how you're going to have your engine stowed, is if you're going to have these open or closed. Or if you want to show off the engine work, you can have those open as well. Alright, now we're attaching our landing gear doors, and then we have some pylons to add on to that, and then our tail surface right there. After that, we are just attaching our horizontal stabilizers and elevators, and then also all of our pylons. Then we're going to flip it all over, and then we are going to do the vertical stabilizers on there, and then also our main canopy piece going on there. Then we do have a few pieces of ordnance to do, and then we have our standard loadout specifications right here. Alright, then after that we have our color and paint markings and decal placement using Mr. Hobby, Acrison, Vallejo, Model Master, Tamiya, and Humbrol. I've never heard of Acrison, Sion, or however you pronounce that name before, so sorry if I'm butchering the name of that brand. But going on with the other decal options and everything, standard Marine Corps gray with this low vis. All the decals are going to be fairly nice on this. And then we flip it over, same thing on this side. We do have a couple decals for the British one right here with the British Union Jack going on right there. And then we have a couple of other options right here. I think this is a, don't know which one is this is for. They don't have the actual squadrons that they are for listed, or dates or anything going on. We just have the just going by the side of the fuselage, we have VMFA 121, VMFA 211, a British squadron right here. I don't know which one that is for. And then flipping over to the other side, we have VMFAT 501 right there, and then we have the top and bottom profiles for the color callouts and decal placements on that. And then flipping back over to the other side, sorry I'm going back and forth, but we have our decal and color callouts for all of our ordnance located in the kit as well. Alright, so now we're moving on to our decals. Decals all do look very nice. No issues with any of them. We have the screens right here. Also, the decals for the side panels, they do look a little bit basic, as you can see, a little generic right there. And then we have the touch screen, of course, it's in the on position right there, so all the electronic equipment is powered up right there. And as you can see, all the other decals are looking very nice as well. Then we have the other decal sheet right here. This is only for option D for the color for paint options. Again, nice gray. All the decals, the carrier film is cut very close to the actual decal, so that's very nice on that. Alright, now moving on to our cockpit right here, we have our ejection seat. Ejection seat looks okay. For the seat cushion and such, I'm sure there's going to be photo etch that we're going to be adding to it. I didn't see a photo etch fret when I was going through all the plastic, but I'm sure it's kind of hidden in between the other plastic bags. And then on the reverse side, we have the body for our ejection seat, where we're going to be adding the seat cushion and also the side panels to that. But all that looks okay. We do have ejection pin marks right on the side, on the inside of the ejection seat, so I'm not sure on how much of that you're going to be able to see on that. Okay, moving on to our next one, we have our canopy railing right here, as you can see. Pretty nice on that. And then our cockpit tub. The detail on the side walls, pretty basic, not much to it. The switches are, like I said, very generic on that, so definitely going to look into doing some aftermarket for that. Then we have some, I think this is for our landing gear doors for the inside of them. A lot of nice cable detail going on right there, as you can see on those. Then we flip it over to the other side. None of this you're really going to be able to see unless you do the canopy right here, and there's no ejector pin marks on any of those. So again, very nicely done on all of those parts. Alright, so now moving on to our clear canopy right here. The clear parts are nice and crystal clear. We do have that one seam line going down the middle right there. It does feel, oh, it's on the inside right here, so I'm not sure if that is actually supposed to be there or not. If it is not, that is going to be a royal pain in the butt to clean up on that, because it's on the inside versus the outside. Okay, up next we have a clear sprue with our sensor head right here, and then a few of the other sensor clear parts going on right there. Again, nice and crystal clear, no issues. They are also very nicely packed and protected with this foam wrap. Alright, so up next we have another cockpit tub, I'm guessing for another variant right here, along with our instrument panel and a few other pieces, and again another set of canopy framing right here. Then we also have our exhaust. So for exhaust, straight out of the box injection molding, the exhaust actually looks fairly nice. No real issues. I'm not seeing ejector pin marks on the inside. Now the inside is a little bit lack of detail compared to some resin sets, but it should be okay on that. And then we flip it over to the other side. Really no issues with anything that's going to be on this side right here, because all of this is going to be tucked away in the model when it is all built. Alright, so up next we have our control surfaces right here. Again, nicely detailed on these ram air panels right here, or not ram air panels, but ram panels. They're not too thick, not overly pronounced. They do need to be a little bit more raised or less raised, but they look okay. And then on our aft control surfaces right here, again, nice and smooth with the detail on that. No rivets so far on this part. Then we have all the small like pitot tubes and all that going on. Our landing gear is also in two pieces, so we're going to have to deal with the seam line that goes down the middle there, but we also do have some nice brake lines and hydraulic lines going down molded into that as well, and actually molded separate from the actual landing gear, which is a nice touch on that. Alright, so up next we have our vertical stabilizers and maybe our rudder or something like that right there. We do have rivets on that rudder piece right there, as you can see. I don't know why they put rivets on that, but those are going to be fairly easy to cover up and sand out on those. Then we flip it over for the reverse side of these doors. I'm sure that we're going to have some detail parts that go in there, because they do have locator tabs on all of those. Alright, so up next we have some more of our bomb bay doors and all the detail going on to our bomb bay right here. You can see some very nice cable molded into the plastic right here, so nice injection molding going on. And then on the reverse side we have some rivet detail going on the inside of these doors right here. I'm not sure what that's about. We'll have to check the references to see if the rivets are actually on the inside of the model. But if there are, the rivet detail on here is very nice, if it's actually supposed to be there. Alright, so now we start running into the issues of this kit. Alright, so first off, the wings, the plastic is nice, but here's where we start running into issues. They added rivets all over the place on this thing, and with it being a F-35 and a stealth aircraft, you are not going to have rivets on the aircraft like this. So definitely a major letdown. You can see here all the rivets that are going on these wings right there. So again, a major letdown for the detail on this. Now you can cover those up. It does take a little bit of work on it, but again, just a major letdown for this kit, because around some of these areas you are going to have to be very careful so you don't lose any of the other detail that's going around on these parts. Now we flip it over to the other side, and again, on the inside of these landing gear doors, we do have some raised rivets. Gonna have to check the references to see if those rivets are actually there. But everything else on the inside right here, we'll see if it's supposed to look like that or not. So can't really give a judgment on that. Then we have the part for our main landing gear right here. Solid one piece, a little bit of cable detail going on there. So that piece looks fairly nice right there. Alright, so up next we have our engine area. The engines, they do have some very nice detail molded into them, as you can see right there. And then we have some cable or piping. That's all one solid piece right there. So very nicely done on that. And we have some grooves. I'm not sure what these grooves are for right here, but for the engine, the molding on it is very crisp, very nice, nicely done. You're going to have a lot of other detail parts that go onto that to really liven that up. Alright, so now we're moving on to our intakes. On the outside of the intakes, they look nice and smooth, and then we have a bunch of other detail parts going on with the rest of the sprue. And we flip it over to the other side, and the intakes also, no ejector pin marks on any of those two pieces. And also for these pieces right here, they are nice and smooth. So the only seam lines that you're going to have to worry about are along the connection points right there. And the way that they are shaped, they should cause no issues with seam lines on that. So very nicely done with the intakes on this kit so far. Alright, so up next we have some landing gear well detail. Again, nice cables and everything molded into all the landing gear walls and everything going on. This will paint up really nice. Or if you want to go super detailed, you can shave off all the cabling and then add in your lead wire or brass wire for your detail right there. We also have the inside of one of our landing gear doors right here. Then on the reverse side, no real issues with any of that. And then we do have our one-piece nose landing gear strut right here. Again, very nice, solid piece of plastic, so it should be pretty strong on that. Alright, so up next we have our pylon detail, and again we have a lot of rivet detail on this. Again, I'm not sure if the actual pylons have rivets for this aircraft, so I'm definitely going to have to do some research on that one before I build it, on where we're going to go with that. And then a couple other pieces I'm not sure about, but as you can see, all the other pieces. Again, not sure about what rivets are supposed to be on the pylons or not, so we'll have to check that out. Alright, so now we have a bunch of cabling and other detail, our bomb bay door and gear bay door latches right here, and a couple other doors. Not seeing any issues with any of the parts on this sprue so far. On these parts right here, we do have some nice electronic box detail and some frame detail on that as well. So again, and then our nose cone right here, again, nicely done. We have some raised rivets around the edge of that, so not sure, or I'm sorry, recessed rivets around the edge of that, so I'm not really sure about that and how that's going to do. Alright, up next we have our ordnance sprue, and this is the typical Trumpeter ordnance. Not much detail to it, but they should be okay straight out of the box with all the decals, and plus they're going to be also tucked into the bomb bay, so it shouldn't be much of an issue on any of those right there. We also get 2 of these sprues, and this is honestly the fewest amount or least amount of ordnance I think I've gotten in a modern day Trumpeter 1/32 scale aircraft. Alright, up next we have another sprue with engine detail parts. Looks like this one is specifically for the F-35B because we do have the extra fans and everything that are going on in here. And then we have the same level of detail molded into this engine as we did the other one. So again, a lot of very nice molded in detail to these engines. Alright, so now we have our hatches and intakes and everything. This is for the actual F-35B kit. Now the previous sprue with the intakes, those are for the F-35C and the F-35A. So this one is definitely only for the F-35B. And we look at all the other parts from here, we do have some nice detail molded into those right there, as you can see. And then a couple other pieces going on. I'm not sure where these go right now, but these intakes, I'm hoping that they're the same as the previous intakes, and they are exactly the same level of quality for the smoothness of the intakes on that. We do have a little bit of a square right here. I'm not sure if the camera will pick that up, but it is a very light square, so it will stand out very easily. And then for the inside of our top intake door, we do have some nice rivet detail on there as well on both doors. I'm not sure which one is which, but again, some nice rivet detail on there. I'm not seeing any ejector pin marks on those, so again, very nice. And then we have the inside of the doors that go on the back side where the engine actually folds down, which again has some nice rivet detail on that as well. Alright, now we have our F-35B specific sprue for our engine, our intakes and everything. And again, everything pretty much looks the same as earlier with these doors right here. Nice electronic equipment right there. Then our engine, again, a lot of how you're going to have this folded. And then our intake right here, or exhaust, all that. Our actual exhaust can also again looks very nice for injection molding. Detail on there is fairly nice. The only thing that's lacking is on the inside of the exhaust. That is the only area that is actually lacking any detail. So as you can see right here is pretty smooth. There are a little bit of detail like the molding, the shaping of it, but that's about the extent of the detail on that. Alright, so up next we have our rubber tires. Rubber tires do look okay. We do have some sidewall detail on them. That is actually very nicely molded in. And then we have some nice tread detail on this as well. We do have a light seam line going down the middle of this wheel right here. But I mean, for rubber wheels, these are actually very nice. I'm very impressed with these rubber wheels. And the same level of detail on the front wheels. And the tread on the front wheel seems a little bit soft, and we also do have the seam line going down the middle of that one as well. Alright, so now moving on to some fuselage parts, and this is the nose piece right here, and as you can see we have rivets all in the panels right here. Get you zoomed in a little bit so you can see, but I'm hoping that the camera will pick those up. Again, I don't know why they added all these rivets to this kit. There's not supposed to be any rivets on this kit right here. So again, gonna take some work to get those all filled in, and you also have the seam lines that are going right next to the rivets as well. So on this one, the panel lines right here, as you can see, these look fairly nice with the elevation of them. But again, you have all the rivets that you're gonna have to sand down on that, so you're really going to be able to knock that down to pretty much an accurate level on that. Then we have the upper piece right here. Again, the shape on it and everything is very nice. Let me get you zoomed back out. The shape of it is very nice. These panels right here, they do seem a little bit exaggerated. They should go down maybe a little bit more. But again, they added rivets all over the place along this fuselage right here. Along every panel line there's rivets, and then even in some places the rivets actually do not make any sense, because where there's a jagged line they just go straight through it. So definitely going to take a lot of work to get these all these rivets taken care of, and then having to go through and rescribe everything on the panel lines. That you're going to lose when you sand it down, because the panel lines up here are very, very soft on that. We do have some nice drill detail and everything. Yeah, so the major thing about this kit is all the rivets on this. It's going to take a lot of work to get that taken care of. On the reverse side, there's nothing to worry about on that. And then on the underside of the fuselage, again, same level of detail. These panels, they do feel a little bit over exaggerated, but I'm thinking that when you're sanding down these all the non-essential or non-existent rivets, I think that's going to help knock that down to where it's going to be an accurate height across that. So definitely have the work cut out for us on this kit on getting it accurate with that. So definitely going to take some sanding to do, and the way I do that is I use this Bondo glazing putty right here. That's how I get rid of all the panel lines, and when I do one of the F-35s or something, I'll show you how I take care of that. But so far, that's the only issue with this kit. Everything else looks very nice on the kit. Alright, so that is everything for the Trumpeter 132nd F-35B Lightning. And the kit, for the most part, the interior detail looks very nice. When it comes to the exterior detail, I don't know why they decided to add all the rivets to this kit that are non-existent, but it's definitely going to take some extra work to get that fixed. Now, this is the only 132nd F-35B in the game right now, so you're kind of limited on your options unless you want to wait for one for however God knows how long it takes a company to do one, and that's praying that they do it right. So like I said, this one, it can be corrected. It just takes a little bit of work. You can probably have all the rivets and everything done in probably a few hours to a day or two doing the Bondo method. But other than that, that's all I really have to say about the kit. It looks like it's going to be a decent size. It looks like it's going to be a decent build. But other than that, that's all I got. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope if you were on the fence about getting this kit, I hope this helped you make your decision. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell button for when I post new content. And until next time, have a great day. Stay frosty and happy modeling.